All right, good morning, everybody. This is Dan Lyons at the National Weather Service in Raleigh. Thanks for joining us for the Tuesday edition of the Monday weekly briefing. Thanks for joining us today. We'll talk about the weather over the next handful of days. We got a couple things going on here, so let's just go ahead and dive right in. The upcoming weather pattern this week is going to be kind of the tale of three different stories here. Today we have, we have a couple of showers out there. We had some showers go through the Triangle area just within the last half hour or an hour or so. That's all ahead of a cold front, which is currently positioned up in Virginia. That front is going to slowly move through the area tonight, but it is going to stall out near the coast across the North Carolina, South Carolina border. It's going to hang out there for a couple of days. As such, we're still going to be looking at periods of showers, maybe even some isolated thunderstorms during the day tomorrow as well, and even possibly into Thursday, although Thursday we'll see if things maybe dry out a little bit sooner. But bottom line, for the next 2 days or so, we'll have a little bit of unsettled weather to deal with as we have this front in the area. By the time we get later in the week, Thursday evening into Friday and part of Saturday, we should have an area of high pressure move into the area from the north. This will bring in, I'd say, somewhat drier air. I would hardly say it's going to be, bone dry or anything like that. Dew points and humidities will creep downward, and it'll be noticeable. But unfortunately, it will be somewhat short-lived because that moisture and the unsettled weather is forecast to come back into the area Sunday into Monday of next week, when it looks like we could actually have a decent chance of showers across a good portion of the state. Let's take a look at rainfall totals over the next couple of days. The screaming message here, if you look at the tiles across the top row, there's a lot of light greens on there. Maybe the second shade of green. You just don't see very much in the way of rainfall today. Tomorrow, there's even less. And certainly by the time we get to Thursday, if there is going to be any precipitation across the area, it might be along the coast, it might be in the mountains, but the central Piedmont looks like it's going to be mostly dry. There could be a stray shower here or there, but boy, it's not going to add up to much. Friday, similar story. You start to see some rainfall chances, perhaps creep into the mountains Friday into Saturday. Still mostly dry across the Triangle and points east until you get to Saturday night. That 5-day rainfall total in the lower right-hand corner, again, the precip amounts that you see there, not that much. You don't really see any of those blues indicating an inch or more until you get out near the Triad and maybe in the mountains out that way. Again, we got much higher chances of precipitation early next week. We'll probably end up covering that in a little bit more detail with our Thursday briefing in a couple days here coming up. With that front that's going to slowly move through the area today into tonight and then stall out to our south tomorrow, we do have a marginal risk of excessive rainfall. Basically, there could be a few rounds of showers and thunderstorms that form over the same areas, which could lead to some flooding concerns. But in terms of, widespread flash flooding or anything of that nature, we're not anticipating anything of that nature. That's why we're only on this level 1 out of 4 on these graphics that you see here. And certainly by the time we get to Thursday, there's no risk of excessive rainfall or flooding or anything like that across the area. Similar story for our severe weather chances. You see a lot of that lightest shade of green on the maps in the top row there for today and Wednesday. That just means there could be a few showers around, a little bit of thunderstorms. But in terms of organized severe weather, widespread severe weather that could, be potentially hazardous, we're not expecting anything like that today, tomorrow, Thursday, even into early next week at this point. So nothing really to write home about on that front. Something that we should write home about, though, are the tropics, and the tropics have certainly gotten busy in the last couple of days. Within the last week or so, things have really turned up. The heat's turned up, so to speak. We do have 2 storms out there at the moment. We have Danielle in the far northern Atlantic, and then we have Earl just north of Puerto Rico there. Let me throw the track forecasts on here for these 2 storms in particular. Tropical Storm Earl, the one that's closest to the mainland U.S., it is forecast to become a major hurricane later this week. But the good news for us is that it is forecast to stay well off the coast, and it's going to continue to make its turn away from the mainland United States. Hurricane Danielle, that is a long way out there to begin with. That storm is going to, it's eventually going to weaken, but it's going to take a couple days of drifting around and kind of turning around back on itself. Kind of a interesting looking track with that that storm in particular, but that's not going to be a player for our weather whatsoever. But you do see these two areas down here, the orange X and the yellow X, and those shaded areas there. Those are two areas that are worth watching over the course of the next week and a half. Both of those have a low to medium chance of development in the next 5 days, but at least for now, there's no tropical threat to North Carolina. That being said, just a reminder here, here's our frequently used climatology graph for the hurricane season. We are here, early September. We are rapidly approaching the peak, and even though it has been quiet this year, the peak is still to come. So do not let your guard down just because it's been quiet so far this year. It does not mean that we are out of the woods. We have a long way to go before we can throw up the white flag and say that we're almost done. Finally, last thing I want to look at forecast-wise here is the Climate Prediction Center outlook for the 8 to 14-day period, essentially early next week into the middle of next week. Odds are tilted slightly in favor of above normal temperatures, and then no clear signal above or below normal in terms of our precipitation chances. So we'll see how that turns out, but that's what the odds are looking like at this point. So again, a quick summary here. We have a slow moving cold front that is going to make its way through the area tonight. As such, we're going to see some unsettled weather today and tomorrow as that front stalls out just to our south. There could be a few showers, isolated thunderstorms around. We're not expecting any really widespread severe weather, widespread flooding, anything of that nature. Not too worried about that at all. Later this week, Thursday into Friday, we should see high pressure build in from the north. That'll bring some drier air to the area, which will be nice. A little bit cooler temperatures. Still close to normal for this time of year, highs in the low to mid 80s. But once we get into the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and even into Monday of next week, we should see some of that unsettled weather return as we get the moisture to come back in from the south. And then finally, last but not least, the tropics are busy, but not busy for us. So there's no imminent threat of anything tropical weather-wise, aside from an increased risk of rip currents. No direct impacts to North Carolina or any of the coast.